Persona 4 is slop, and if you like it, you are a weeb incel who doesn't play real RPGs. This has been on my mind ever since I finished the base game of Persona 5. I put like 75, 80 hours into a game that was supposedly one of the best RPGs of the generation and one of the most popular of all time. It was astounding to me. Not only was the game bad, not only was it poorly made, poorly written, poorly animated, with poor character arcs, with awful dungeon design and pacing. Not only was the game bad, the more I dug into it, the more experience I had with the IP, the more I began to realize that the vast majority of Persona fans are people who have never even played the game. Like, Persona is one of those series that is primarily popular because of memes and because of internet culture, not because people genuinely enjoy or play this shit. Like, it is crazy playing these games and slowly starting to have this realization that they aren't what they're cracked up to be, because the audience simply doesn't actually play them. If the audience did play RPGs, they would inevitably find themselves playing far superior titles that exist. Games like Shin Megami Tensei 4, games like Fire Emblem, games like Xenoblade. Like, there are dozens of Nintendo exclusive RPG franchises that are better than any Persona game. But over the past 20 years, I have been told that Persona 4 is the highlight of the genre, this absolutely impeccable game with a really interesting cast and a really interesting story. And now that I've actually played it, I can safely say not only is that not true, it is the complete opposite. Persona 4 is embarrassingly simplistic with no real appeal whatsoever. It is an extremely padded out, grindy game with very poor character arcs, with very poor writing, with very poor characterization that feels as if it's like 50 hours longer than it probably should be. This is a game made for people who don't have lives in the worst possible sense, because whenever you play Persona, 90% of the time you're just grinding so you can get to the next cutscene, so you can get to the next get through the next dungeon, so you can get to the next section, so you can like do the entire thing over again for the next dungeon. Like, the pacing in this game is abominably bad. It is embarrassing what happens in this game from a storytelling perspective, because not only do they do a poor job setting up the situation, setting up the characters, setting up the lore, setting up the entire basis of the game, they do a very poor job of explaining the unique mechanics of Persona 4. The entire deal with the Midnight Channel and the TVs and Teddy, all of it is just so clumsily integrated and utilized that nobody could possibly take it seriously. But the real reason this game was popular, and the real reason why it became such an enduring classic among like otaku, was because of how much it panders to them. And not just in the shallow, superficial, like hoeing out underage characters thing. No, this goes a step beyond that, in which Persona 4 tries to great lengths to justify the worldview of incels, essentially. Because one of the most enduring aspects of this game, something that you see all the time, so much that I think a lot of even people who have never even heard of the game are aware of it, is this idea that like Adachi did nothing wrong. And if you play the game, that's very obviously not the case, because Adachi's a lazy piece of shit. He sucks. Like, we're not told exactly what he did to get in trouble, but like to get like relocated to Inaba. But like, you can tell he's a lonely loser who refuses to put any effort into anything because he thinks he's just entitled to it. The reason Adachi goes on his killing spree and kills all these people is specifically because he feels as if he didn't get what he thought he deserved out of life, right? In other words, like he has the same exact mindset as the kind of person who plays Persona 4. Someone who uses this game as wish fulfillment, someone who uses this game as a placebo for living a miserable, lonely life. Adachi is that kind of person. So the average Persona 4 player, wants to be like the protagonist, but is actually more like Adachi. And I think this one dichotomy really explains why Persona 4 is a truly disgusting experience, something that truly has no artistic merit whatsoever because of all the links it goes to try and pander to its audience, where you have girls falling all over themselves to be your friend. You have everybody thinking you're the coolest guy ever, how you're unanimously voted to be the leader in the game. There's no conflict with other characters. There's no real feeling that like you're an actual human being. What you are experiencing is some idealized version of high school in which everyone loves you, everything goes your way, you beat the bad guy, and you prove yourself to be a hero. Like, there's no real thought put into it other than the whole, like, power fantasy aspect of it. There's no real appeal to the plot or the story other than trying to make the protagonist look like the coolest motherfucker on the planet. Like, this is the problem with Persona games in the simplest possible way, where you're not truly a hero because nothing you do really matters. There was no reason why you could not have gone to the police about the TVs immediately. The entire cope about how, like, well, like, nobody will believe us, or like, you can prove it. Like, it is something that you can clearly demonstratively prove, and you can put like Ryutaro and the rest of the police on the right track. Like, the idea that the killer is just going to get away, or that you're the only people that can do this, like, it just doesn't hold up any scrutiny. Like, this is the problem with the game, where like it wants to simultaneously make you take on all these crazy responsibilities, and then in reality, you're still going to school, you're living your normal life, you're pretending like nothing is like weird or out there, or that nothing strange is happening to you. And it all just comes off like some weird fantasy. It doesn't come off as if any of it's real. Persona 4 is not fun the way that like something like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest is fun. Like, this is something that is meant for a emotionally neglected, lonely person. It's not something that has any appeal to someone who has like a normal, stable job and income, someone who's has a real future. Okay. This is something where that is designed for people to kind of live in the past. The idea to live in some like fetishized version of high school in which you're some great hero in spite of the fact that you're not anything special. Like, it is one of the most disgusting video games I've ever played in that sense. Whenever people talk about how Persona 4 has a great story or strong themes or having a great cast, this is very specifically what they mean, because they don't actually care about the story. They don't actually care about the characters. They don't actually care about anything. Like, the purpose of all of that is to empower the protagonist and make the protagonist, or by extension, the player, feel as if they're valued and if they actually like contributed to something meaningful in their lives. And the simple fact of the matter is that is not and never has been true. In essence, something like Persona 4 really, truly, at its core of cores, is the male equivalent of Twilight. It's the same exact concept where the protagonist goes through no real struggles of his own. The protagonist is worshipped by everyone around him. It's the entire appeal of it is a fantasy for the player to like get engrossed in the world and act as if like he's someone special. Like, it's not about actually being a good person or actually doing good things or actually playing a game and having fun. Like, the entire appeal is this specific fantasy. And that's why these games are structured the way they are. It's why they're so padded. It's why they're so bladed. For the population of people who play these games, these are features, not flaws, because they can spend more time establishing the illusion that like this game and its characters are real and that they could go on these kind of adventures if they just had some, crazy thing happen to them. But it's not true. Like the simple reality is if something like this falls into their lap and, these things happen all the time, there's all sorts of things you could be doing with your life. These people would just not know what to do with themselves because they are completely incompetent. They are useless. They are incapable of rising to any kind of situation. Like what we're seeing with games like this is this normalization of wish fulfillment media and wish fulfillment fantasy, things that like should not be supported or engaged with at all. I've long said that TV shows like Family Guy and South Park and The Simpsons have negatively influenced society. And I think it's safe to say that Persona is a good example of that for video games because video games aren't supposed to be like this. Video games are supposed to be things that you engage with, things that take real talent and real skill. Persona is just endless grinding so you can grind some more. Like Persona is just a basic harem anime wrapped in this JRPG skin. Okay. Like Persona at its core is extremely basic, but it tries to present itself as being daring and tackling real serious social issues. Like the reality is none of that is true. All of this is just a complete and total joke.